Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, December 29th. Some interesting weather as we approach the new year and then enter into the first week or two of the month of January. First of all, we have a stratospheric warming event that is underway that oftentimes leads to some very interesting weather, and we may have an interesting month of January in the central and eastern part of the U.S. In the near term, we have a lot of moisture headed our way at the end of the work week on Friday, which is actually a holiday, New Year's Day, of course, and it looks like there'll be a cold air mass in place in the northeast U.S. that will be kind of slow to retreat, so that moisture could result in a period of sleet and or freezing rain at the onset, let's say late Thursday night, Friday morning, primarily areas north of the Mason-Dixon line. Eventually that changes to plain rain as low pressure heads towards the Ohio Valley. Then we'll have to watch for the potential of another low pressure system forming near the eastern seaboard late in the upcoming week into the Sunday-Monday time frame. Still lots of questions about that, but it's something we will certainly need to monitor over the next few days. First of all, let's talk about the stratospheric warming event that is underway right now. What we're looking at here are temperature anomalies throughout the world at the very highest levels of the atmosphere, 10 millibars. Let's call that the stratospheric level here. Notice this red blob here. This is a warming that has taken place over the last few weeks during the month of December. And what we're looking at here is 90 degrees north at the very top, then 60 degrees north at this next line right here. So we're looking at the high latitudes here that indeed experience quite a warm up over the past few weeks, and this stratospheric warming event will continue over the next couple of weeks. This is North America over here, and this is tends to be on the other side of the North Pole. Again, a stratospheric warming event is already underway. Well, here's a still image as to the current scenario right now at the highest levels of the atmosphere. What we're looking at is kind of a top-down view with the North Pole represented by this little circle right in here. This is the Asia side of the North Pole, and this is the North America side of the North Pole with the U.S. right here. Typically, you have a polar vortex sitting near the pole or over the pole this time of the year. In the upper part of the atmosphere, we're looking again at temperature patterns right here. But look at this warm blob here on the Asia side of the North Pole. That is that stratospheric warming that we saw in those previous loop of temperature anomalies. And this is something we closely monitor this time of the year, stratospheric warming, because it often sets off a chain of events that can lead to cold air outbreaks into the middle latitudes. In our case, into Canada and the U.S., cold air masses may be dislodged from the polar region and pushed towards the middle latitudes this time of the year. Anytime that polar vortex is dislodged, it can be displaced onto one side of the pole. It can be broken apart into pieces. In this particular case, there's a huge area of warming on the Asia, the Siberia side of the North Pole here. It's kind of shoved this polar vortex a little bit, maybe on the North American side here, with some cold temperatures aloft as far south as the southern part of the U.S. And watch what happens over the next 10 days. And here's the forecast map from 10 days from now. So notice we go from this currently to this in 10 days, and that polar vortex is kind of shunted a little bit more to the one side of the pole and still have some stratospheric warming. This is all the way 10 days out. So this is something we'll closely monitor to see exactly what kind of impact this could have. Again, in winters past, we have had an increase in cold air outbreaks into the mid-latitudes, into the Canada and the central and eastern U.S., for example. Sometimes up to a few weeks after the actual warming event, you get those cold air outbreaks and that cold air pattern. So again, this is something we'll closely monitor in the days to come. Well, in the near term, we have a couple of different interesting things to monitor here. First of all, A lot of moisture will be headed towards the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. late in the week. It looks like it'll arrive late Thursday night, Friday morning in the mid-Atlantic region, and there'll be a cold air mass in place with high pressure kind of anchored to the north over the southeastern part of Canada now, despite the fact that the surface low pressure system is headed well to the west of I-95, let's say into the Ohio Valley at the end of the week. With that cold air in place, there raises the chance for some sleet or freezing rain late Thursday night, early Friday before a change over to plain rain. And that threat for some frozen precipitation is primarily Pennsylvania, Maryland border on north and east. But let's take a look at the upper air vorticity field, and then we'll take a look at what could happen at the end of the weekend. We have this mainly rain event coming Friday night, and then much milder actually to follow it on Saturday. But then a cold front passes through, and there'll be a residual area of upper level energy hanging back behind this initial system in the Friday night time frame, and that could set off the development of low pressure in a colder air mass at the end of the upcoming weekend. So first of all, a cold frontal passage occurred in the overnight hours in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, even some snow shower activity across New Jersey, for example, over the past few hours as that cold front passed through the region. Today, basically a windy, cold day, mainly sunny skies, below normal temperatures. Now, let's move forward here as we go through the next couple of days. It gets a little bit milder on Wednesday, but then another cold frontal system will pass through by Friday morning, really from the north to the south, and high pressure tends to build in this particular pattern here. We kind of have a confluence with the wind flow like this across northeastern U.S. and then like this across southeastern Canada, kind of confluence setting up over southeastern Canada. In other words, surface high pressure over this part of Canada come early Friday morning. At the same time, a lot of moisture pushes out of the southern states into the mid-Atlantic region. That spells a little bit of trouble. Again, there could be some sleet and or freezing rain late Thursday night, early Friday morning in the mid-Atlantic region as this moisture arrives, again, primarily in areas north of the Mason-Dixon line. Now notice right off the bat here, we really have like two areas of energy at the end of the week. This is the Friday morning forecast map of 500 millibar vorticity fields. A main area out in front here, that causes the initial low pressure system to move up to the Ohio Valley, well to the west of the I-95 corridor. But it's this area right here that we'll have to monitor for a possible second system to deal with at the end of the upcoming weekend. Let's move forward here. And again, the initial wave of low pressure will head up to the Ohio Valley. It becomes primarily a rain event in the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. Friday night, but again, it could follow a period of frozen precipitation. And then an area of moisture, an area of energy to monitor, not only up across the Great Lakes as we get into the upcoming weekend, but kind of a residual area of energy down here across the southern U.S. This interaction could result in low pressure developing along the east coast here, right in this time frame, around Sunday time frame. And again, it'll be in kind of a colder air mass, probably quite mild on Saturday, but then a frontal system drops southeastward across the mid-Atlantic, across the northeast U.S., and we'll be in a increasingly cold air mass come Sunday. So if indeed low pressure forms in this region right here late in the weekend, it'll be kind of interesting, maybe a marginal cold air mass for it to work with. In the Sunday, Monday time frame, something we'll keep an eye on over the next few days. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run. High pressure builds in today from the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic region. A stiff wind. Notice a wind developing over the next hour or two, quite noticeable out of the northwest as that cold air advection takes place. Cold air moves in. Cold day, despite plenty of sunshine, will be below normal. High pressure then moves right on top of the Mid-Atlantic region for Wednesday morning and then shifts off the eastern seaboard. That kind of opens the door for a couple things to happen. Here's the forecast map for Wednesday night. First of all, low pressure will head towards the southeastern part of Canada, and that will swing a cold front towards the mid-Atlantic region by Thursday. And here's that frontal system right here moving through the area during the day on Thursday. And high pressure then builds into southeastern Canada. Here we are by Thursday evening. Cold high pressure with that confluence in the upper part of the atmosphere. High pressure builds into southeastern Canada. A weak frontal system drives through the I-95 corridor region. We kind of have a fresh, chilly air mass in place by late Thursday night, and it's at this time that moisture starts to flow to the north and east. Notice the pink here. That represents some sleet, maybe some freezing rain breaking out early Friday morning across much of the area north of the Mason-Dixon line. Even in the Philadelphia suburbs, it could be a period of sleet and freezing rain at the onset of this end of the week precipitation event. Again, we're talking late Thursday night, early Friday morning, with this high slowly retreating, only slowly retreating to the north and east. There'll be enough cold air in place for the possibility of some frozen stuff at the onset Friday morning. Then, with that surface low going well up to the west, enough milder air pushes into the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor for mainly plain rain in the afternoon and evening. And that's when we'll start to monitor the possibility of a second system. This is the Friday afternoon forecast map, quite mild behind this initial wave of low pressure, but that swings a cold front through the area late in the upcoming weekend. By Sunday, let's say, this is the area by Sunday morning that we'll have to watch. GFS does not have much of a system in here, but colder air moving in, a reflection of surface low over the western Atlantic, a reflection of some upper level energy with some snow over the Ohio Valley. It's this interaction right here between the wave of energy to the north and west and one to the south and east that could spawn the development of low pressure in the southeast U.S., let's say in the Sunday, Monday time frame, something we'll closely monitor over the next few days. So a lot going on. In the longer term, we have to deal with the impact of the ongoing stratospheric warming event. In the short term, a windy, cold day today in the northeast U.S., a big precipitation event coming Friday night. It could be cold enough at the onset of that for some frozen precipitation, sleet, maybe even freezing rain north of the Mason-Dixon line Friday morning. And then we'll have to watch for the possibility of another storm system late in the upcoming weekend to form the southeast U.S. and head towards the eastern seaboard. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.